Hello, everyone. You're listening to How We Heal, the podcast. I'm Kira Noel, medical intuitive, your host. Our sponsor is the medicinebuddhawithin.com. Intuitive training for all. Check out the website and register and be invited to all the upcoming trainings. Now let's begin our show. Welcome, everyone. This is How We Heal with Kira Noel. Today, my guest is Alina Bloomgarden, who is the founder and executive director of an incredible organization, Music on the Inside. I'm grateful that she could spend time with us today because she's a busy woman doing incredible things in the world. The point of our podcast is to ask guests, how did they get to bring their own unique view to the world, that we get to receive it and enjoy it? So thank you so much, Alina, for taking the time today.
Thank you. Thank you, Kier, for your interest in what we do here.
Yeah, I'm very interested. So I know you for a while, and I know of your work, but I think you speak to a specific audience. You're doing something very special in the last several years, correct? This work, and you got here. I'm sure you got here through the the rivers and floods that life gives us.
Right.
So please share with us about this journey you've been on.
So Music on the Inside, we launched it in 2016. We're in our 10th year. And I was inspired. I produced a show about Louis Armstrong at Lincoln Center when I was working there. And then we took it on the road. It was part of a reel-to-reel program I did, combining film and live performance. And then we took it on the road, reel-to-reel on the road. And we ended up doing a month-long Satchmeration in Woodstock, Vermont. Our band leader, David Ostwald, gave it that name, and it's been a wonderful name since then. And in the process of creating a month-long celebration about Louis Armstrong, one part of it, I had to write curricula for the high school honors English students. And in the process, I learned that Louis Armstrong had been arrested when he was 11 or 12 years old, sent to the Colored Waifs Home for Boys, where they had a boys' band and a music teacher, and it changed his life. He'd always loved music, but he'd had no formal education. He was a really indigent child, living practically on the streets in New Orleans, but listening to the music and always loving music. So this was his first music education, and of course, he then became Louis Armstrong, the ambassador to the world. So that journey, I thought, what are we doing for incarcerated youth and adults today? And I walked around with that idea for about a year, and I wasn't sure I would start a nonprofit organization. And then I saw Wynton Marsalis. As you know, I had the honor to convince Lincoln Center that jazz had a rightful place there and produce the first years of Jazz Lincoln Center. And I brought Wynton Marsalis to Lincoln Center. So we go way back. And I happened to be at Joe Temperley's retirement party. And Wynton said to me, "Alina, give us an idea. We need you." I said, "Well, I have an idea right now. Do you want to hear it?" He said, "Yes." And I said, "I want to bring music and mentorship to incarcerated youth and adults in the name of Louis Armstrong." And he said, "That's what I want to do. Call me Monday." And Tuesday he came over and we talked about what we wanted to do. So anyway, I started actually, my partner at first was Alma Montclair, who had just retired from the ACLU. And she really wanted to do something. And we started together. We registered Music on the Inside as a nonprofit and I started by working in Rikers Island.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's the real deal.
real deal.
And did you get kids, young people right away wanting, or anyone, I'm sure all age categories coming to try to get involved?
Well, that's a good question, and it has many different trajectories. At Rikers Island, was very disorganized there. Some days we'd have students, some days they were going to lunch and it wasn't scheduled. Anyway, but we did have some lovely students. In fact, we started out teaching just singing and songwriting, and we had them write original blues. And here's one that I always remember from a young boy. He said, "I go to sleep lonely every night. I go to sleep lonely every night. All I want to do is hug my son goodnight." came
Mm.
right out. And it's what I've learned working with people who've been impacted by incarceration is a couple of things, many things. I often say a lot of people, I'm not like a do-gooder. I'm not somebody who's just charitably here. I'm going to make your life better. I need it as much as
Why
anybody.
not?
No, because I feel like we all need the human connection. And I get so much nourishment from the people we work with because what I've learned, what I often say is the people who've been impacted by incarceration are often more available than most people because no one's asked them, what's your favorite song? No one's asked them, let me hear what you want to write. How are you feeling today? Everyone is just treating them in a very punitive way. So when you come in with some openness, they pick it up right away and open up so much and give back so much. So the work has been very, very gratifying. Yeah.
Uh,
After we worked in Rikers Island for about 3 years. And then when the whole campaign to close Rikers started, it got even more chaotic there. So then we went to the state system and we've been teaching since 2019 at Queensborough Correctional Facility, which is the only reentry facility in the metropolitan area. So people who've served sometimes decades upstate have a chance to come down, get a little orientation for about 6 weeks before they're released. So that actually turned out to be perfect for us because not only do we teach in the prisons, but we also support people in reentry. And I'll tell you how that happened. When COVID happened and we couldn't work in the prisons, none of the prisons were open. In order to stay active, we started producing concerts called Music While We're Inside, Zoom concert. Music on the Inside presents Music While We're Inside. And over 500 top musicians volunteered and performed, and every concert had somebody who was or formerly incarcerated. So one of the concerts, we'd gotten a recommendation from this lovely guy who'd served 46 years,
mm,
was a talented musician. He kept himself alive through his love of music and his Muslim faith over 46 years.
wow.
And he had such a soulful sound. And that particular concert, a very esteemed, famous jazz saxophone player, Don Braden, was on it as well. And when he heard this gentleman play, he said, I want to mentor him. And that began our mentorships. And one of the signature programs that Music on the Inside does is these mentorships where we match people one-on-one with a musician on whatever instrument they want. So we're teaching, and that is very important because people coming out of prison can feel very lost, very unsupported. And I often say, a lot of people say, well, they need jobs and housing more than anything. How are you going to hold a job if you still feel like on your shoulders that sense of incarceration? And when you liberate yourself through your own songwriting and singing and playing an instrument and feeling some joy, then you're much more likely to be able to hold a job. Also, you learn skills with music that are very life skills:
Yes.
concentration, focus, collaboration, cooperation.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, music activates that part of the brain that needs to bring us in into a
exactly.
wholeness.
Exactly.
And it stimulates the vagal nerve, the singing and playing, which heals the body.
Yeah.
It's a healing experience. So how did they get instruments? Did you bring instruments
Well,
in?
we in the prison, we basically teach guitar. I have all guitars there. People donate guitars to us, and please put the word out. You can here.
Oh, absolutely.
We need guitars. We also need we need a tenor saxophone right now for someone. I don't have the room to store lots of instruments, so it's one by one that we put out a call, and we've had lovely donations, saxophones and flutes and clarinets. Yes, so that's how we do it.
It's wonderful. And this was, something that I hear you came to it from the experience, of learning about Louis Armstrong and what he went through. But you weren't in that work until when? And in 2016 is when you actually had the vision of it?
No, I had the vision of about from like 2013. I had done this big celebration of Louis Armstrong 2014, 2013, 2004 in Woodstock, Vermont. And then I kind of walked around with the idea for a while.
Hmm.
And then we registered it on December 15th, 2015. We got our registration with the state of New York and then we got our nonprofit status January 7th, 2016. So it takes a while. Yeah.
It took, well, a nonprofit and starting a newfound, creating something that's basically a foundation that can carry on. It's huge. It's a big event. It takes a lot of people. So you have Winter Marsalis, right, as the artistic director, advisor,
Artistic advisor, yeah.
and you are still running the show?
I am. I
How's
am.
that going?
Well, it's been such good work. I mean, one of the most exciting things that happened the past couple of years, we now have the MOTI Reentry Dream Band. And last year they had 10 paid gigs, one of them at the
Wow.
Newport Jazz Festival. They were in the Newport Jazz Festival. It was a big deal. And Newport wants us back. So they've just said they want us back every other year. So next summer we're going to probably be there again.
That's amazing. Do you go to some of these teachings and rehearsals, and do you try to show up for them occasionally or always, or how do you fit that into your life?
Well, the rehearsals we hold in my apartment. We make
So
dinner for
you're there.
I'm there. And I always cook for them and we create a sense of community. And that's very important. Often what I say is that music is the means, but the real thing is the human connection because people have been isolated by incarceration, really need to come back and feel connected, have parity with others. And music, of course, does that more quickly than anything. I often say one note, someone comes where they've been incarcerated all day. They come to our class. You do one note together and we're just human beings making music together. Your story goes away. My story goes away. It doesn't matter. That's what's
Yeah,
important. Yeah.
it's a connection. Yeah, it's fabulous. That's a great connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I I see it in your work. You're basically bringing the human heart connection to these individuals who are willing to be open to
Yes.
maybe take a risk, because it's a big risk when you've been incarcerated to give
Yes.
people a chance. It's a big
Yes.
risk,
Yes.
but it's such a level playing field to bring music in. I think it's a great concept, great idea. I think it's got legs forever. I really do.
What's happening right now, which is exciting. So we've been in New York State, New York City, and we have some mentorships that we do in Philadelphia, Baltimore, Atlanta, because our mentorships, we can offer them remotely. So musicians can meet with their mentee even when they're on the road. They keep that connection, which is very important. But there's a developer in New Jersey that now is working with us to develop a whole branch of music on the inside in New Jersey. So that's been a big new project and a very new project for me. And, I've been working with members of my board, which has been very helpful to just how do you take this concept and what does it mean to replicate it? And, you know, yeah.
Yeah, is that gonna require a second and a different board to run each?
Well, not so much a different board, but perhaps a different executive eventually a different executive staff, more a larger operation staff,
Right.
program managers, we need to, and of course, big part of my work is, raising money,
I was gonna say fundraising as well. Is that a
fundraising. One part about that I really like to write and my grant writer is so kind because I'm constantly rethinking about, some people want to get one form that they say and every time for every fund, every grant that you propose. But every time I write it, I think, what about this? Let's do this. I'm just the creative type. So lucky I have a grant writer that really likes that.
the continually flexible but adding to the story?
Right,
Well, I
right.
would imagine fundraising is in essence the hardest part of it. Like the work part where, work, but you may enjoy it. Do you enjoy it?
I do enjoy it, but I like the writing a lot. I really
Good.
enjoy writing. So, and then we have events. I'd love you to come in. We have our Juneteenth Jazz Jubilee once a year at Ethical Culture. And this year we have amazing artists, Catherine Russell, Art Alfonso Horn, Wycliffe Gordon. I mean, some of the real top jazz musicians. Really, a lot of musicians have tremendous empathy for people who've been impacted. Some people also have people in their families that have been impacted. So there's a real sense in the music community, and maybe I would say in the jazz community particularly, a real sense of empathy and a desire to help. And one of the things I feel good about that we do is we make it easy. Musicians want to help. What are they going to do? We're going to give you someone that you can mentor once a week, wherever you are. And, and we pay our mentors and that's part of what we raise money for is to pay our teaching artists. Sure.
Wow. Well, that to employ people as well as help, this underserved population. I will be there at the concert.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm so
I'm
excited. I had a really good Winter Marsalis story when I was my 40th birthday. I got to go to see Winter Marsalis at Lincoln Center. And that was, well, it doesn't matter. It's December 21st. So it was a special winter concert.
Right.
Yeah. And that's something you created. So I'm really, that was amazing. I remember
Right.
that event because I love Winter Marsalis.
Oh, yeah.
Anything else going on in your life that's to take the, keep the flow of
Well,
energy?
I always believe, and my spiritual teacher, as you know, always encouraged us to keep an art side and a work side. So
Yes.
I always keep my dancing alive. And right now I've been studying with Luigi Jazz. I go as many classes as I can a week. This week, none. What happens is work gets too much sometimes and I just can't. But yeah,
And
I
this
keep
is,
my dancing alive.
and you're a volunteer, right? This is that you created, you
Well, I
kind
got a little fee from my board.
okay, but a lot of it is just
Oh,
a
yeah.
huge amount of time and not
Well, the truth is because I have retirement and I'm old enough that I have Social Security and everything, I don't need to have the kind of salary that someone else would need to be an executive director of a nonprofit board. So it made it possible for me to start this organization sort of on a wing and a prayer. And we've now graduated and, uh, and I'm very much thinking about what the next steps are for the organization and what the next steps are for me. But I know for myself, I really feel so blessed to have work that's so engaging and so gratifying. It's
well, you're helping people heal, okay? My professional life it's not as a podcaster, it's as a medical intuitive and I do training for intuition.
yeah,
And all I do is help people find that quintessential, beautiful individual view they have and let it fly.
right,
Let yourself be who you are.
right.
And that's why I love hearing a story like yours where you really got to activate that part of you.
Yeah.
So, and we may cut this, but we had the same spiritual teacher. I still consider her name was Ellen Resch. I still consider Ellen very actively teaching me every day.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh, yeah, she's very much the inspiration for my entire professional life. Otherwise, I would never have had it.
Wow.
When I met her in my 20s and finding I was a lost soul,
Oh,
she welcomed me with open arms, reluctantly, I think, at first. Yeah, so 40 years later, I'm still
pretty. I was after college. I wandered around the country for 3 years, which I loved. Actually, those adventure years were great. And I came back, and my family was like, "Oh my God, what's going to happen with this one?" But when I was ready, I don't know if this is for the recording, but I remember after I traveled around, lived in Haight-Ashbury, lived in New Mexico, lived in New Orleans, all great adventures. I came home and I was in my growing up room, and I put across the ceiling, "Seek and you shall find." And every night I would go to the ocean and sit on the dunes and I would speak to the ocean and say, "Okay, I'm not going anywhere else now. I'm waiting to be called." And I just very specifically said that. And that summer, my best friend from growing up was working at American Heritage Magazine, and the photographer was Marcia Keegan from A Group Person. And Marcia Keegan came out, and I thought to myself that I wasn't talking at all that summer. But to her view, I was like the most social person on the beach, giving everyone massages. I don't remember myself that way. But then she came back the next weekend, and we sat by the place where the ocean hits the land, hits the sand. And she told me about Ellen, and I knew that that's what I had been waiting for. And within 2 weeks, I'd moved to Jersey City, got an apartment, and Ellen said, "Okay, go get a job at Gimbel's for Christmas." If my mother would have told me to get a job for Gimbel's for Christmas, I would never have done that. But Ellen said, and I did it. Well, my boss at Gimbel's after 2 years said, "You have executive ability. We don't have anything. I'm going to call Macy's." And he knew the friend who was the head of personnel at Macy's, and they brought me right in the executive training program, which was a big thing to apply for. And then at Macy's, it was when I really found out that I could create a program and make it happen. I had this idea that people were coming from all over the world in foreign languages wanting to shop, and we weren't ready for them. So I convinced the powers that be way up the hierarchical ladder there. It was a very steep ladder. I said, "We need to have Macy's International Center." So they gave me permission. I hired polyglot staff, and I had this store directory translated into 7 languages, including Chinese and Japanese. And I connected with the travel industry in New York. And my night manager, who worked for the Bronx DA's office by day, he saw the ad for Lincoln Center. And he said, "This ad has your name on it." So Lincoln Center was looking for customer service. And so I became the head of God, I can't even remember the title anymore. Anyway, I ran the tours and Meet the Artist programs, and I grew that. I learned a lot through work in my life. I certainly didn't look like anyone that was going to get anything done. I was a real space cadet, but I have a moon in Capricorn, and I really like to make something happen. So
I get it. Yeah.
we had a Meet the Artist program. Students would come from all over the tri-state area. We had 400 of them when I started. And by the time we were done, we had 25,000 kids a year coming.
Wow. Wow.
So that's when, because I had been successful at Lincoln Center, when I heard that they were looking for new programming ideas for Alice Tully Hall in the summer, which it was dark. And I used to go with my friend Travis and meet him at Barry Harris's Jazz Cultural Theater. After the cacophony of Macy's at Christmas, I'd walk into the Jazz Cultural Theater, and there was something so healing about it for me. And when I heard that Lincoln Center needed new programming ideas, I said, jazz has the rightful place here. It's an American art form. Okay, Alina, give us a proposal. My first proposal was totally rejected. The management committee thought jazz would be a rowdy audience. Okay, write us another proposal. So 3 proposals later, and I'm learning. By then I'm like, I didn't know anything. I just knew jazz was right, but I was no expert. And I would go out and out, and I was learning. And by the time I came to the third chance, I had a real conception that we should do repertorial concerts, not just jam sessions, and with real program notes, and put together and pay tribute to the great composers of jazz, the way we do classical musicians. And I'm going to call Wynton Marsalis. That's what I told them. And I called Wynton, and his management thought he might be interested. So Wynton and I met for 4 hours. He said he would perform for free for the first 2 years, which he did. And he became artistic advisor for me at Jazz. It was then called Classical Jazz at Lincoln Center. We sold out every concert. It was that was an amazing experience.
Well, I can't, you think about how much you had to kind of fine tune it so it could be acceptable.
Yes.
But it does make sense that it's such an elegant art form in music to look at it from this side, even from like a classical standpoint, and say,
exactly,
these are the classics in our world. This is,
exactly,
from our part of the world. This is our music. We need to honor it.
exactly.
Yeah, so I got to benefit from that once. I went to see him. I love it. I've seen him several times, but that was kind of a magical time because I just turned 40. I was still not sure what the hell I was doing with my life, but
he's in and out now because next year is going to be his last year at Jazz Lincoln Center. He's kind of retiring.
wow.
But I could keep an ear open, and when he's going to be somewhere, I'll let you know. One thing about Jazz Lincoln Center, they treat me very nice. They know that I was the person that called him. And so I can get tickets, and I go there a lot, and I'm out and about in the jazz world because jazz musicians really want to help the population. And
You get us in and I'll get dinner.
Okay, perfect. We're in.
We're in. So we were both those wandering souls when we met our
Definitely.
teacher. Yeah, what a story. And I met you, but my whole life is pretty much foundation of it has been Ellen and all the teachings.
Wow.
I mean, everything that I chose, and Ellen would raise her eyebrows, sure, has fallen away.
Wow.
Because it wasn't meant for me, and I wouldn't let go until I let go. You know how that goes.
Right.
Well, yeah, it's amazing when you meet the right person. It just is. So the work you're doing, when you think about how fortuitous it was for us to have a teacher, everyone who's coming to your program is finding a teacher. They're finding their teachers, and you're really giving them a spiritual path, because music and spiritual path are the same thing as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. I tell my students in intuition, find a note for yourself that you feel resonates with who you are as a soul, and look for that note and then list and play it every
Wow.
day, because we all have that vibration in us. And I know we've heard many words about vibrations in our history from Ellen, but yeah, it's so magical when you get that essence and you connect. So do you play an instrument, Alina?
I've never really been, I can tinkle around on the piano a little bit, but I've always been a dancer. I'm still a dancer soul. Ellen said I was a dancer soul too. And she told me in my first meeting with her, she said I had a dancer soul and that my most powerful dance connection was as a flamenco dancer. So I went to take flamenco lessons because Ellen said, and I just took to it. It was really something I had a lot of affinity for. So
That's fun. Well, your body is your, instrument. That's
yeah,
you do play an instrument.
yeah, that's true.
Her body. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
dancing.
yeah,
Yeah, so I relate to it all. I mean, we were taught, left and right brain, so I practice art. I'm painter drawer, and that keeps me from getting in too much trouble, creating too many things with my wild side.
that's
That's the key, right? Staying
I was just
grounded.
one of the things we talk about teachers. Some of our mentees have become mentors themselves, teaching others, which is another beautiful thing. And that they have the agency, that they can share something, that they have something to impart. All of that is so important.
Yeah, and I know you talked about the skills you get being a musician, but I imagine there are probably a few of your students who go out and play music and make money, as you said. MOTI does paid gigs, but maybe even in other places when they've gotten a sense of their own value as a musician, they might be able to incorporate that into their lives as part of their livelihood.
Sometimes that's true, but also they get a sense of their own value as a person through the music. And then whatever work they have, they're much more ready for it, is why I often say that. But also, we get paid gigs for our Reentry Dream Band. And I love to put the word out there because they had 10 paid gigs last year. They have one next week for the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice. And we had a rehearsal last Saturday. And it's really community building as much as anything, too.
Yeah, and I keep the word out. People, if you want to hire someone for your event, this is
Yeah.
the way to go. This is just a
Yeah.
win-win for everybody, and you'll hear amazing music. So tell
Yes.
us more about the concert so that people can get tickets.
Yes. So it's our Juneteenth Jazz Jubilee. This year we're doing it a few days after the real Juneteenth. So we're calling it The Celebration Continues, Let Freedom Swing. And we have
Great.
Grammy winning artists performing with formerly incarcerated musicians, as we often do. This is our fourth year at Ethical Culture. It's June 23rd at 7 p.m. You can go on our website, www.musicontheinside.org, and there's a QR code you can open up. There's different range of ticket prices. And I'm excited about it. We're excited about it.
It's very exciting, and it says even on the, website, you can listen and donate. So if the ticket
Yes.
price is too high or it doesn't fit into your schedule to go to the New York Society for Ethical Culture, which is an amazing place to go see a concert, you can partake of the event and donate.
It's a live stream part of the show that we have a video editor, the videographer that comes and does it every year. So we have people can
Nice.
watch it from anywhere in the country. Yeah.
And if somebody wants to start this kind of work in their own community, are you open to being contacted to get
Certainly. Absolutely.
how would you like people to find you?
You can find me at Alina at musicontheinside.org. You can also write to info@musicontheinside.org, or you can go to our website and there's a contact tab that you open and you can tell something about yourselves.
So what's the next chapter look like for you after you've done all this?
That is really a good question because I see how much I really like to work. I like feeling engaged. I like feeling challenged and continuing to grow myself. And I always have this dreadful feeling, what would it be like if I wasn't really working? And yes, I would want to do some more sculpting and artwork and dancing, but I don't know. Leisure is not my thing. I'm not particularly the kind of person to just hang out and be social in my own way. I'm just not. Yeah.
No,
So, it,
you're a producer.
yeah,
You're a
yeah,
producer.
yeah.
Any film possibilities for the events that you have put together for to talk about the story behind this and how it came to be?
That would be lovely. I've
I
been
think
approached about that for a few times. That would be interesting.
I
Yeah.
think you would have something that I love what you're doing, and I think the larger audience needs to know about it.
Yeah.
Like, wow, music, music. Yeah, music.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then,
Yeah.
for healing and for
Music.
connection and community.
Yeah. And
I mean,
that's what I often say. Nothing is more immediate in terms of connecting us with our common humanity than music. It's like the most immediate. You don't have to talk about shared humanity. You become it. You don't have to tell your story verbally. You just become this human connection. And it's so immediate for everyone. And for us as well. I often say that when I said before, I'm not a do-gooder. I feel very healed by the work as well. And I feel that that's correct. I feel that when you give in that way, you should be receiving. And then there's a parity. It's not from up to down. You're not above somebody. Yeah.
I like that. I mean, I think we're all teaching each other and every
Yeah.
time we interact.
Yeah.
So if your work life offers you an opportunity to help others, it's not you that you're not helping them, they're helping you. I mean,
Both. Right.
we're both doing this,
Exactly.
connect.
And that's when the healing happens, I believe.
Yeah, I think it does because you drop the ego and you bring on open space, create the open space.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could use a lot more open space in the world today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And caring, my daughter in particular is a musician and she plays the flute and the guitar and the piano on top of all the other things she does. And I watched her, these instruments take a lot of caretaking, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So if you have an instrument and you're listening, we are looking for a few good instruments.
Yes, we are. Yes.
And please contact Alina on the website and just meet this lovely, amazing woman who knows all the coolest jazz musicians in the country.
True.
And
How blessed am I?
yeah, what a great life. What a great
True.
moment.
I mean, I'm out and about a lot. I mean, I'm very lucky to live in New York. I love living in New York, and we're out and about hearing jazz 2 or 3 times a week often, sometimes. Some weeks not, but sometimes I'm happy to be just home, but no, you have to be out in it.
Yeah, you're in it. You're floating in the pool of beauty and sound. Beauty and
Yeah.
sound. Always consider music as a healing. Just is. Well, thank you so much for talking to us today. And I want to say you can go to the website, Music on the Inside, but you can also go to eventbrite.com, BRITE, to get your tickets. Get them now. I will get mine right now, so I will be there. And
Wonderful.
I'm looking forward to being there and just being engulfed in the beauty of the sound. Really.
Thank you so much,
Get the
Kira.
healing. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Alina. Good to
All
see
right.
you. Bye.
You too. Bye. Thank you.
We want to thank the following people. Jennifer Maidman for original music. Listen to her on iTunes and Spotify. Drew English of Upstate Podcast Studio for sound and recording engineering. And all our executive producers. See you next time.